On behalf of the people of Kilifi, allow me to officially welcome you to this conference and to Kilifi County. Your Excellency, as you sit here, you will note that you're not sweating, that's one. And if you look around, there's no single AC around here. But that should not tell you that Kilifi County is not an ASAL County, because many have been projecting the particular argument that because Kilifi County shares the longest shoreline, how then can it be termed as an ASAL County? Your Excellency, that is a misnomer, because immediately you start moving in the hinterland, a few kilometers, you will leave the coastal plains, which dovetails into the Nyika Plateau, and immediately after the Nyika Plateau, then you go into Yatta, that feeds into the savannas of the Tsavo National Park. And that is all Kilifi. So yes, Kilifi is an ASAL County, and yes, this conference is being held in an ASAL County. I wanted to put that to rest. Your Excellency, this day is very historic. Indeed, very historic. Because for the very first time, a government has decided to put resources together to bring in stakeholders to seriously engage and debate on matters touching on development of ASAL areas. It's a pity that this is coming over 50 years after independence. But again, I am not surprised, Your Excellency, because we borrowed heavily from the policies of our colonial masters. When the white settlers came to this country, they did not settle all over this country. There are some areas that they identified as high-yielding, high-potential areas. And those are the areas that they settled, and those are the areas that they heavily invested in. When we gained independence in 1963, we thought the founding fathers would revise that thinking and see this country as one entity that requires equity in terms of development. But that was never to be. In fact, they were worse. The independent government was worse off than the colonial masters. In 1965, Your Excellency, there is a paper that was a sessional paper that was passed in Parliament, Sessional Paper No. 10 of 1965. And Your Excellency, it is that paper that has made us meet here today. Because if this country never had that paper, today we would be talking of underdevelopment in ASAL areas. The underpinning principle under that particular paper was that wealth of this country will only be invested in high-yielding areas. And therefore, when the then government wanted to invest in Kitui, for example, they will say, Kitui, there's no water, there's no road, and therefore let us not invest in Kitui. If the then government then wanted to invest in Wajir, they will ask themselves, is there a road in Wajir? Is there water? Is there electricity? None of these things are there, and therefore let us not invest there. Instead of the government asking itself, is there water in Wajir? Is there electricity in Wajir? Are there roads in Wajir? And if the answer was no, a government would say, let us put these things in Wajir. But instead of doing that, we decided to craft one of the most, I would say, backward paper called the Sessional Paper No. 10 of 1965. I will put that paper, Your Excellency, allow me 2 minutes to put that paper in the context of the then NFD, the Northern Frontier District. A history that we share very closely at the coast. Your Excellency, before independence, Northern Frontier District was Kenya for purposes of boundaries, but for all purposes and intents, it wasn't Kenya. Because even the way it was being administered, it was very much different from the way other areas of this country were being administered. In fact, Your Excellency, you'll be shocked that Northern Frontier District had its own laws. The rest of Kenya had other laws, but the Northern Frontier District had its own laws. And that's where marginalization actually started. In 1960, in fact, when the clamor for independence really gained momentum, when our founding fathers left this country to go to Lancaster House in London, a legislative representative from NFD by the name Ahmed Farah went to London and made a very heavy case for NFD. And he said, look here, unless you change the way you're administering the Northern Frontier District, you're courting disaster back in Kenya as you discuss independence in this part of the world. But Father's sentiments were never taken seriously. But Farah's sentiments actually reached fever pitch in 1962 for the second round of the Lancaster House Conference. And that is when NFD made an official position that they wanted to secede. And the position of NFD is, just give me one reason why I should call myself a Kenyan, and I remain in Kenya. Otherwise, NFD had made a resolution to secede and join Mogadishu. And in 1962, in the Lancaster House rounds of consultation to bring about independence in this country, NFD was told to go back home and hold a referendum on whether indeed everyone in NFD was willing to leave Kenya and go to Mogadishu. Your Excellency, that referendum was held. And the score was 62% of NFD voted Mogadishu. Why? Because they never felt they were Kenyans. If you're on tarmac, you come to Nairobi. If you're on electricity, go to Nairobi. If you're on services, go to Nairobi. If you're on your ID, go to Nairobi. Why should I call myself a Kenyan? And because of these policies, some of these areas remain the way they are. Now, these negotiations, and I'm using NFD as a reference just for us to appreciate the kind of marginalization that ASAL counties have had since independence. When the results for the referendum were never honored, the Republic of Somalia in 1960, after attaining independence, the independent flag of Somalia bore 5 stars, representing 5 regions, and the 4th star in that flag represented the Northern Frontier District. Because they felt that NFD is more closer to Mogadishu than to Nairobi. The question is, has that changed today as we speak? Because of devolution, at least a semblance of development is being witnessed across the country. Now, after independence, NFD thought they were going to be assimilated into this country called Kenya, and they'll be part and parcel of this republic. But whatever happens, I think historians will bear me witness that the steps that the independent government took were not steps to assimilate NFD into Kenya, but to further alienate them away from development. And that's why the NFD came up with the shifter wars. We have read about Bula Karatasi massacre. Why were the Somalis massacred through the Bula Karatasi massacre? The Wagala massacre. The Merina Mali massacre. People who are championing their economic rights, their development, their right to development from their government, were to be massacred. That is the sad story about these ASAL counties. In 2010, Your Excellency, we from this particular part of the country, the ASAL countries, we saw a window of hope, a ray of hope. And that's why we made sure that a clause inserted in the Constitution that will bring about equalization. And the thinking behind it, and Your Excellency, we were there together. The thinking behind that particular clause in the Constitution was the realization that indeed Kenya is not equal in terms of development. There's some parts of this country that have been marginalized for years, and therefore they're yearning for development more than others. And that's why the drafters of the Constitution in 2010 decided then to put a clause to bring about Equalization Fund that will only be plowed to these counties to bring them to par with the other counties and the rest of this country. Today, Your Excellency, it's a sad day because that concept, that thinking is now being watered down. And it's good, my good friend who just spoke before me raised these issues. Today we're being told that the Equalization Fund is in fact going to be taken across the country. And the reason behind it is they're saying, look here, don't look at a county as a county. Look at the villages. We are being told to look at villages today. Because there's a poor village in this county, bring Equalization Fund. And that was not the original thinking behind the Equalization Fund. So you can see how the goalpost keeps on changing. And that's why the ASAL counties will never score a goal. Because the goalpost is forever being changed. And Your Excellency, another issue is about where do we even domicile this fund, the Equalization Fund. According to the Constitution and the enabling legislation, Your Excellency, Equalization Fund is supposed to fund basic services. But today, Equalization Fund is funding almost everything under the sun. And secondly, it's actually domiciled at the Treasury. We thought, and I believe that was the thinking when we came up with this Constitution in 2010, that this fund was supposed to be domiciled in the counties that had been identified as the recipients of this particular fund. But that is not the case. So today, Your Excellency, I will be taking a borehole in Ganzi, which is extremely arid. When I do that, I will see a contractor from Nairobi drilling a borehole 10 meters away from the borehole being drilled by the county government. Why? No consultation. A fund that could otherwise have had such great impact is not giving us any impact because of the way we're managing this particular fund. So as we deliberate in this conference, these are the issues, these are the low-hanging fruits, Your Excellency, that once we can be able to get a better formula on how we can manage even the Equalization Fund, I think a great deal can be able to be achieved and a good impact will be able to be felt. But today, thanks to devolution, all these ASAL counties, their development was not in the hands of government. The development of ASAL counties was in the hands of NGOs and non-government actors, NGOs and foreign missions. Today, if you go to any arid and semi-arid county, if you see a hospital, it was done by an NGO. If you see 2 classrooms, you'll see a board there written, funded by USAID. That is our life as arid and semi-arid counties. Let this conference be a game changer. Let whatever is going to be deliberated here, Your Excellency, we have lost over 50 years since independence. Let us not lose even a second from here. I thank you so much, and I welcome